Yeah, I think everybody got kicked.
We all got kicked again. I do not understand. Because it should be a separate link for... Who are we missing? We had one more, right? Or two more? I'll just put this in. Okay. We are still recording. So I was asking you all a question about why would 7 go on the same step as 5?
Because sometimes you can use the 7 chord to go back to the 1.
Let's see. Actually, that's not why. We can use it there, absolutely, but there's a reason that it's on the same step as the 5, especially the 5/7.
Because it's a part of the 5/7?
It's the top 3 notes of the 5/7. They share all of those notes, so that's why they go together, okay? Now, you look at the 2, and why would the 4 go with the 2?
Because the 2 shares notes with the 4?
Yes. Now, here's a thing to know. Chords that are a third apart share 2 notes. And this is an important thing because let's say we want to go from 1 to 6. All we have to do is change one note. We change the 5th to the 6th, and we now have the 6th chord. We can go to the 2 chord, and that actually took us to the 7. If we go to the 4 chord and do the same thing where we raise the 5th, we get the 2 chord. So they share 2 notes. Chords that are a 5th apart share how many notes? 1. Yes. Chords that are a 2nd apart share how many notes?
None?
None, unless it's a 7th chord. If that makes sense, then they might share 1. The 7th could be the same note, but otherwise they only share 1. So the important thing to know is you tend to go down the staircase, you tend to go step by step. You don't leap over steps, and you don't get to go back up until you hit the bottom, the tonic chord. Okay? So far makes sense? And a whole lot of harmony is just 1, 2, 5, 1, 2, 5, 1, 4, 5, 1, 4, 2, 5, 1. A lot of it centers around the bottom 3 steps. Kind of makes sense? And then when they got into the 19th century, then they used more of this chord. This chord in major is extremely uncommon. But where would it be more common?
You're not sharing screens.
Oh dear. I am sorry. Thank you. It would be nice. Okay. So now you see it, right? I hope. I don't know how that share stopped, but in any case, we'll just keep going because it's good. So, any ideas why we would use more chords in minor? Why we would use the 3 chord in minor? How does the 3 chord relate to the 1 when you're in minor? This is really important.
It's the relative major.
Yes. And so now I don't have in here, but I want you to draw a staircase with 6 steps. And for minor, and actually I'm going to try something I haven't done before that may be fun, a whiteboard. Okay, so I can draw. This doesn't mean I'll be able to draw really well because I don't draw well with my mouse. 1, 2, 3, 4. I need 6 steps, so I have to leave enough room. Can you see that? So now we're going to put the 1 at the bottom, and the 1 is minor, so we use lowercase. Make sense? We're going to put the 5 here. 2, not a very beautiful 5. We'll put the 2 here. What's interesting about the 2 in minor is that it's a diminished chord, because this is the chord that was 7 in the relative major. Now, what chord goes here on this 4th step?
Major 3.
It has to be a 5th up from 2.
The A flat.
The Roman numeral, what do we need?
6.
6. And 6 in minor is major, because this was our, oh, what was it? When we're in minor, that's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. That's the 4 in major, right? Now, what's a 5th up from 6? 6, 7, 1, 2, 3.
E flat.
3. We need it to be 3, not E flat, because E flat functions in many different keys as many different functions. Now this one, we do not raise the leading tone for this one. And then what's up a 5th from this? Why do we need this extra step here?
B flat. Or no, 7.
7, and it will be the 7 that is major. This is the subtonic chord. In the key of C, it would be B flat. In the key of F minor, what would this chord be?
E flat.
E flat. Now here, we're going to put the 7. What's the root of the 7 chord that's diminished? It's not the same as this one. This one was in the key of F minor, E flat. In the key of C minor, this is B flat. In the key of A minor, this is G. What is this built on? Oops.
The 7, the natural 7.
The raised 7 called the leading tone. Okay? And then here we get the 4 chord in minor. What quality is the 4 chord? Anybody know?
It's minor.
Yes. So there's our 4 chords. So this is the minor staircase. Okay? When you get to 1, you can go anywhere you want. Now I'm going to trade my shares so I can show you the other things. Here we go. And I'm hoping we're still recording. I'm going to make sure we are. Good. Okay. So there are more pages of the chord progression staircase. This is the most basic one, and this is for major. What's new here? And you can add this to yours. What do you see that you didn't see before?
The 6.
The 6 chord down here. Now, what do we call it when we go to the 6 instead of the 1?
A deceptive cadence?
Yes, so this is just the deceptive cadence, okay? Now look what I added for number 3. Does anybody know what these are over here? The only one whose face I see is Landon. But Josiah, could you tell me what are these over here?
Which ones?
Or the ones, do you see my mouse moving? The ones with a Roman numeral 5 and a slash.
So that's 5 over 4, 5 over 2. I see 5 over 2.
Mm-hmm.
5 over 5. So it would be the bottom one would be the 5th of the 5th, right?
They are what we call secondary dominants.
Okay.
So they are dominants from other keys.
Oh, I see. Okay, that makes more sense. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it would
we
be the
call them-
dominant of the 5th in that key.
Right. Here we'd have 5 of 5. Now the thing to know is because we're going up in a 5th to get this chord, it's this chord here, the 2, that is being altered to become the 5 of 5. We make the 2, which is normally minor, into a major chord, and it's a 5 of 5. Make sense? Now we go up here. 5 of 2 would be the altered 6th chord. Now here's a tricky one. Do you see I wrote 5, 7 of 4? What chord do you have to change to get a 5 of 4? Meaning what's the 5th note above 4? And you always have to start your counting on 4 because Roman numerals do not have 0. To go 4, 5, 6, Landon. 4, 5, 6, 7. What comes after 7?
8 or 1.
1. But 1 is already major, isn't it? We will not perceive a simple 1 triad as a 5 of 4. It has to have the minor 7th added. Make sense? And then here, obviously it's the 3 chord we are altering to make it major to be a 5 of 6. All of the rest of these secondary dominants can have a 7th, but they don't have to. The only one that must have the 7th is the 5, 7 of 4. Now you can also take 7 chords of everything if you want to, and you could do even a 7 diminished 7 chord, which is one of those modes of limited transposition if you went to Randall's session this morning, right? Diminished 7th chord is all minor thirds. It's always in root position no matter what you do. How many diminished 7th chords are there? We have 12 major chords. We have 12 minor chords. Yes, Kevin, we have 3 fully diminished 7th chords. Okay, then we're going to the next thing, and these are all on the Google Drive, so you can print these out if you like, but it's good for you to write it yourself. I found it, I had never counted how many steps there were, and my hand just remembered how many to write. But we have 5 when we're in major. So what have I added here to this final staircase?
You added that cadence thing.
Cadential 6/4.
And also, is that a Neapolitan chord?
Neapolitan, the flat 2, usually in first inversion. And augmented 6th chords. Now these are ones that I'll be going over when we talk about chromatic chords tomorrow, if you want to come to that. Okay, but I want to make sure we get to how you assign chords to things today. The cadential 6/4 is something that's inserted in between this step. Some people call this step the predominant step. This is the dominant step. This is the tonic step on the bottom. Make sense? So the cadential 6/4, we might be going along and we have a 2 chord, and then we do the 1, 6, 4, then the 5, So it's something that's used a lot. It's put here because when you use those notes, the sixth and the fourth above the bass note is the fifth note of the scale, fall down and become the 5 chord. And it always happens the same way. Okay? Do you have questions about this chord progression staircase? Not right now? Okay, so then I have to, oh, I know what I can do. I can drag this. Oops. Drag my, yes. Now when we start assigning chords to things, here's, okay, now I can move this back up so it's out of the way. Are you seeing my next sheet? Do you see steps to harmonizing a melody? Good, good, okay. So first thing you have to do, you have to write your melody. If you're going to start with the melody and then assign chords. Some people start with chords, as Josiah often does. So you write a melody. This is a melody that is a question phrase. It ends on the second note of the C scale, and then an answer that ends on the final note. It's just a cute little cheery tune. Some of you maybe could hear that in your head, but this is also in the Google Drive. Now the next step is figuring out what notes in the scale you have, because remember, any note can be any number of things in different scales, right? So in the key of C, this is a 1, a 5, a 1, a 3, a 4, 3, 2, 1, 7, 5, 1, 3, 5, 3, 2. This all makes sense? Takes a while to put all these in, just saying. Okay. And then I look at, I think it's this sheet. Can you see this one now? Major key chords that work with each note. Kevin, do you see it? Good. Okay. So if I have 1, 3, and 5, those are the notes in the 1 chord. 5, 7, 2, 4, those are the notes in the 5 chord. 4, 6, 1, those are the notes in the 4 chord. In a major key, these 3 are the most common ones that are used. That doesn't mean they're the most interesting. They're just the most common. You need to use other ones to keep things interesting. The colorful chords are 2 and 6, and the least common by far in major is the 3. The diminished 7, that triad in major is also pretty rare. In minor, we still use the 1, the 5, and the 4, but the only one of those that's major is the 5 chord, and we have to raise the 7th note to make it major. That's why the harmonic minor is called the harmonic minor, because we use it for harmonic functions. Okay? The 3 chord is colorful in minor, but it's used a lot. And here, notice we do not have the raised 7th note, because otherwise we'd have an augmented chord. And the augmented chord didn't start being used until chords were used as colors, which is what happened with Claude Debussy, among others. Okay, so even though we often use that raised 7, and we need it for the 7 chord, and here's the 7 diminished 7, we do not use it in the 3 chord. And then the 6 chord is very colorful in minor because it's a major chord and it is so beautiful. The least common in minor, it maybe is, it's the 2 that's diminished. And the important thing to remember about diminished triads, not the 7th chord, but the triads, is that you need to be sure that they are always in first inversion only. Because if you're in root position, you have a tritone between the 2 and the 6, or between the 6 and the 2. The tritone is an invertible thing. If you put the 6 on the bottom and the 2 is above it, you have a tritone. The 2 to the 6 is also a tritone. So we put the 4 in the bottom. Here's a diminished triad. in root position, it sounds kind of because we have a diminished fifth and a third. When I put it in first inversion, there is still a tritone, but not with the bass. So we have a third and a sixth. Much nicer. If I put it in second inversion, and you have to know second inversion isn't so common, then we have the tritone in the bass and a third. Does that kind of make sense? Okay, so there's those chords. Then we go back to this. And here I see 1, 5, 1, 3. Every one of those notes belongs to the 1 chord. So that's what I chose there. Okay. When you're writing a melody that's active like this and fairly fast, you don't usually change chord every note in the melody. You'll have a chord that runs for a little while. Does that kind of make sense? But you will want to change sometimes in the middle of the measure, and sometimes you might even have 3 chords in a measure. The speed of the changes of chord is called the harmonic rhythm. So what I picked here, 1, 5, 1, 3 works with the 1 chord. The 4 and the 2 would work with the 5 chord, but it's more interesting to have a 2 there and then a 5. 1, 3, 5, 3, well, that's probably a 1. And then we go to the second note of the scale, and that's usually harmonized by 5. Usually at the end of your question phrase, if you're writing tonal music, this all applies to music between 1600 and somewhere around 1900. Common practice period harmony, just so you know. Most of the question phrases end on the second note of the scale, and then they are harmonized by the 5 chord. This is so common it has a name. It's called partial closure. The second phrase is very similar to the first, but at the end I altered the melody so that I could end on 1, and then I could speed up the harmonic rhythm and have 2 chords here going to 1. Make sense so far? I could have harmonized the whole thing with 1 and 5, but this is more interesting. So the next thing I do then is put in what we call snow person chords, so you can think about them. So that's root position chords, and they would sound it's very jagged, isn't it? So then, did everyone get that? Okay. Then what we do, it just started raining here. Anybody else have rain where they are? Who knows? Kevin does. Yeah, you're way out east. We have, or west, we have rain. Then what I do is I make sure I start and end my phrases on root position chords because they are very, very stable. Does that make sense? But in between, I rewrite the chords so that now there is what we call smooth voice leading. And that sort of makes sense to your ears?
Yeah, I think it sounds, I like it better than the first one.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
It
smooth
has a lot
voice
more
leading.
variety.
Well, and the other thing is that now I could give the bottom notes to a bass instrument. And I could give the top notes to a tenor instrument. And I could take out the middle notes and move them up an octave and give them to an alto instrument so that instead of being in close position, it's in open position. And I have to do this. I did it wrong, sorry. I need the D and then the C. And then that could be a string orchestra playing it. So the second violins would get the middle notes, all of the middle notes up an octave. The violas would get the top notes as written. They are all in the viola range. Bottom notes will go to the cellos. And I could add string bass playing the roots of every chord. Or they could double the cello. It's whatever works. Does this
I have
kind
a
of make
question.
sense? Yes, good.
Why would you put the middle notes at the top for in the highest instruments?
It would still be underneath the melody because you want to keep the harmony stuff out of the way of the melody, but then you have an open chord instead of a close position chord. There may be times you want the close position, but close position sounds better up an octave. And you can try that on your own piano to see. Now the place the C chord sounds really bad. And with Zoom, this probably sounds even worse. It's awful. And the reason that it sounds awful, anybody know why?
Because like the overtones are overlapping.
The overtones are fighting each other. Does everyone know the harmonic series? Do you know what that is?
I don't.
We're going to do it. I'm going to add a piano here so we can see it. And get rid of this one. Can everyone see the muse score now? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to put in, if it'll let me, this one down here. The harmonic series is a series that's created because sound moves in waves, and each tone has within it its multiples. So this note here is twice as fast as what we call the principal. I want to be, okay, make this into, there we go. I want to make this into quarter notes too. Okay, so then, there we go. If this is twice as fast as this, what is the next C going to be?
Middle C?
Yeah, well, how much faster is it than this?
3 times faster?
No.
4 times,
Because it's
right?
twice as fast as this one. So the next C goes here.
Wouldn't the next, like 3 times the original note be the G?
Yes. And then we know that twice as fast as that G, oh, I have to do this up here. We're going to get into the treble clef. So twice as fast as this G will be up here, and that will be our 6th harmonic. So this is twice as fast, 3 times as fast, 4 times as fast, 5 times as fast, 6 times as fast goes here. 7 times as fast, 8 times as fast. So then we have to figure out what are these 2 notes. So there has to be a note between C and G that is 5 times as fast as C. Any guesses? I'll just tell you. It's E. So this is also Schwach Zarathustra. Boom, boom, boom. Right? Whatever he does. My brain's going fuzzy. And then 7 times as fast happens to be a 7th. Isn't that cool? I can put all these in for you and come back and look at this. Oh, so this is 1 times as fast. Oh, it doesn't want to put it in for this one. 2 times as fast. 3 times as fast. 4 times as fast. 5 times as fast. 6 times as fast. 7 times as fast. And the 7th is not really in tune with that, just so you know. Now here's the thing. Okay, so we've got this. That's in the key of C. Now we go to G. Here they are in G. And we go down here and we're going to put them into the E. Now if we stack these all on top of this note here. So we have low C. This C has within it these notes. Now the G has the G here. It has this G. Oh, then it has D. Then it has that G. Then it has B natural. So I need another B here. There we go. Whew, it's getting crazy. And then we have a D and an F and a G. Now we go to the E. Well, now we don't actually get this one in there, by the way. We get this E there. That's not a problem, is it? But then we have B natural. We have E natural. We have G sharp. I'm going to put it in as A flat so we get it. And then we have B natural, which we already had. We have B, which we already have, but we also have E. So this is what the harmonics are when we start that low. And I could make these longer. That'd be fun. You can actually hear. Crazy, huh? Now, if I move that up an octave and then do that again, I know it gets crazy with the ledger line. Can you tell when you get to this one, it isn't as bad? When you get to that one, you basically don't hear anything. So if we play this chord here, it's just fine. But when we play it here, it's very growly. And I was wrong. We do have the E and the G because they're being played. Right? G. Then we have to listen to those. And you can try this yourself. When you hear this, it kind of hurts. When you hear this, it's warm. When you hear this, it's sweet, because the faster a frequency is, the faster it dissipates. It has to do with waves. You have to understand waves to know what you're doing. Okay, other questions?
So, I remember this piece by Stravinsky. It was a dance. And the orchestration was really weird. It was like at the bottom, the notes were super close together, and then the flutes were like really far apart and then really close together at the very top. I forgot what it was called, but it actually sounded cool.
Oh, you can get really cool things. Absolutely. So this is the rules that are followed mostly, like I said, up till 1900. When did Stravinsky write?
Like during the 19th century?
During the 20th century, during the 1900s. So then people were really pushing the envelope. And he knew what he was doing. He was going for a set sound. So yes, there are ways, and you'll hear this afternoon when I talk about textures, Beethoven liked to use close position chords really low, but he figured out that you could do it with the C minor chord, but not so well with the C major chord. So he starts the Pathétique with a C minor chord, voice close together. And what happens then is that all of these notes go down a half step, and they aren't nearly so obnoxious. I think because the B becomes B flat, and B flat is there. But yeah, it works. Other questions? Sorry, I don't know why my phone is ringing. Oh, Allie has entered. It's right here. Anyway, so no more questions right now? And like I said, all of this, I'll even put this in the Google Drive if you like. Would that be nice? We'll call it Overtones or the Harmonic Series. The tricky thing with the Harmonic Series, before we leave it, is that sometimes we call this the fundamental pitch and this the first overtone. But if we talk about partials, this is the first partial, the second partial, the third partial. So the numbering changes, and I think that's easier to deal with because then the third partial is 3 times as fast, and the fourth partial is 4 times as fast. But the fourth partial is the third overtone because the fundamental pitch can't be an overtone, it's the fundamental pitch. Make sense? Any other questions before I stop sharing? And as I said, I will put this in the Google Drive folder, and the other things are already there, so you can print them out if you like. Tomorrow's going to be writing a canon and I think realizing chords, which will kind of be a follow-up to my texture thing today. Okay? Sound good? No more questions from anybody? Florence, Allie, Josiah?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. Well, you can always ask me questions later. I'm around all week. Yeah. And now I have all of you back here. Josiah, your picture is very funny. It's good to see all of you, and there's something in the chat. Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Well, I'm going to end this meeting so I can be in a lesson in 4 minutes. Okay? Good to see all of you. Bye.